What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another video. Today, I just wanted to take a second to stop and talk about just personal gain and personal reflection over the past little bit. Now, I know this feels like it would be a year-end video, and the year is not over. We still have a month and a half, but with me, like, thinking about being almost 8 months into Japanese, almost starting my, I'm about to finish my 7th month, about to start my 8th, December 1st, but I thought it'd be cool to kind of just step back and just kind of look at some of the stuff that I've improved on over the course of a year as a language learner. Some of this will obviously be about my Japanese, but then just as a language learner, and I think a lot of times it's important. Sometimes we set these goals and we say, where am I at? Where did I want to be in 6 months in Japanese? Did I achieve that? Well, I'm not 100% sure. I don't really know where I expected to be, but I also can look back now and say, man, I'm definitely okay with where I'm at. But also growing as a language learner. This is the first year as a language learner that I have stuck with a language for more than just a couple of months. Honestly, probably even more than just a couple of weeks. Usually, if you've been around for a while, you know that I jump from language to language. I've literally gotten emails before from people who were like, I used to use your channel as a form of motivation of how to not be a language learner, because you would just never stick with anything, and that's perfectly fine. But as a language learner, I've grown. I've stuck with the language, and I know there's probably some people who are like, shouldn't that just be the normal? I can't believe that's crazy. But for me, this is a video for me. I'm not here to impress anybody. I'm not here to impress you guys with anything. This is just a self-reflection video, and for me, sticking with a language, that is huge. And the other huge part of that is knowing that I don't have any plans of stopping Japanese. I know I made a video a couple of weeks ago talking about changing stuff and how I was going through some depression with languages, and I had toyed with the idea of switching languages, but a lot of that's kind of just more so tongue-in-cheek. There was never a point where I was actually literally like, okay, this is 100%, I'm dropping Japanese and going to whatever. You kind of toy with the idea, but a lot of that's just coming up when you're in kind of almost like this weird stressed out, anxiety-ridden stage. But Japanese, is here, and that's something that's huge for me, because Japanese is very easy for me to get very, very overwhelmed with because of just how complex it can be. A lot of times I think I'm overthinking it, and then other times I think, no, it's a pretty complex language. That's for you to decide. I'm sure somebody in the comments will let me know. But, I think that for me to stick with it and not get overwhelmed and not say, okay, I'm jumping ship, and then to also see those gains from there, right? Man, I've stuck with it 7.5 months. If I only stuck with it 3 months, I wouldn't know. And then I think about some of the things that I know, and I'm like, okay, I wouldn't know that, or I wouldn't know that, or I wouldn't know, if you add so after an adjective, that means it appears or seems like. Just weird little things that I've picked up, or koto ni shimasu or koto kimasu, the idea of I decided, or I decide, or something like that, to be decided, basically, just little things like that I never really would have known had I not stuck it out. And that is huge for me as a language learner, and it's also a huge confidence boost. So yeah, just kind of doing that. The other way I've grown is realizing that there is something out there besides application learning. You can learn, and this is becoming obviously way more prevalent now, and more people seems like are ditching apps or not using them quite as much. And I'm not anti-app. I know my first video was that I ditched the apps, but that was because I needed to correct a very, very bad habit of relying only on these applications. Now we could get into a whole argument about whether or not Link is an app, and I read on Link. I don't consider that an app, because it's not like a gamification app, although I know there were people who disagree with that as well. But same thing, I don't consider Yomi-chan on the computer, or Japanese.io, these apps that help you read. I know I just said the word app, but I don't consider that an application. I'm talking, your Duolingos, your Lingodeers, and stuff like that. And Lingodeer, which I haven't used in a while, but I would use it for grammar, and Duolingo. Again, I think these can be fine if they're used as a supplement, which is what they're designed for, but for me, they were the cornerstone, right? What language am I going to learn? Does it have a Duolingo course? And that's where you would go. And I would spend hours and hours on Duolingo instead of just trying to expose myself to the language. And so basically just kind of refining my methods to what I find for me to be a very much more efficient method, and more efficient based on a whole lot of other people who have had the same findings, including doctors and things of that nature who talk about this stuff regularly. But the point is that I'm finding something that works for me, and sticking with the same general pattern since April 1st of how I'm learning has been huge, because there's not been like a radical change, like outside of I read more now than I didn't really read before, so pretty much I would read maybe 10 or 15 minutes a day, depending on the subtitles, and then it would just be blindly watching TV, maybe picking a word out here or there. Like, I do read a lot more, so I still, am active with the content. I've just kind of changed it around. And so I've stuck with the same core concept of getting the language in front of me. I've just slowly adapted and made it work for me. And I feel really, really good about everything that I've done in that regard. I feel that I have become so much better of a language learner because I'm learning the language, I guess, versus just learning like little set phrases and stuff. So yeah, that's another thing. And again, you can get into reading as itself in a language is huge. Like I know that you guys have heard me talk about it all the time, and I finally got into it. I give all the credit in the world to Percy Jackson, of all things. Like, I started reading it in English, and I just haven't stopped reading. In English or Japanese. Like, I've read 7 books since November 1st, and that's in English. And I've also read almost 20,000 words in Japanese, which I am trying to up that. Anyway, the whole reading video, I can make a whole video on reading. I just want to briefly touch on some topics here, but yeah, again, learning how to adapt, learning how to do stuff that you didn't like. The other thing that I did learn is that, especially on some, if I'm reading something and if it has audio with it, almost like you're listening to an audiobook or something, I turn the furigana off because I don't want to rely on it. I noticed that I would rely on it way too much. I would look at that and I would sometimes it wouldn't even be on purpose. You would just overlook the character. Like, I would just look past it because I was reading the furigana. So I turned that off, and it forced myself to look at the characters. And I am learning so much more kanji now just because of constant repetition of kanji. I know, again, none of this should sound like groundbreaking anything. And again, I'm not here to impress. Like, there's some people probably like, you're an idiot. I can't believe that, clearly that's the way it would work. But hey, this isn't to impress anybody. This is for my own self-reflection. This is talking about how I'm, how I'm advancing as a learner. But yeah, getting used to that has been huge. I would leave it on because I didn't like being uncomfortable. But that's something that I've progressively gotten okay with in Japanese, is being uncomfortable. Now, not being so uncomfortable that I'm completely lost and I don't know what I'm doing. I put myself at an uncomfortable level to where I can adapt, and that seems to be working like tenfold, like versus what I was doing, and I'm a-okay with that. So yeah, just constantly getting used to new things, but in the same fashion, again, using the same core concepts, but adjusting it just slightly, and that has been absolutely huge. So yeah, that's pretty much, like, I know that this video, I don't know, people may or may not like it, but I just, sometimes it's so easy to get caught. I think I said this at the beginning, but sometimes it's so easy to get caught up where you're at and where you haven't progressed to, that it's hard for us to sometimes sit back and think like, well, let's see where I've come. And, today I was sitting, reading a little bit, and I was sitting here thinking, and I was like, man, this is not something I would have done 2.5 weeks ago. And I was like, man, that's really cool. That says a lot about how far I've came, and especially how far my study, or, I guess you'd call it study pattern, but my habits in the language have changed, because I've always talked about wanting to read, and I just never got into it. And then here we are. And then I was like, well, what else have I advanced in? And I was like, again, 7.5 months in a language. I've not studied 7.5 months of a language continuously, maybe ever. Like, I don't know. I'm a bad language learner. So in that regard. But yeah, I just want to, and hopefully somebody can watch this and they can say, you know what, that's a good point. Maybe I'm not where I want to be, because sometimes we do set unrealistic goals, and that's okay. But step back and look at where you've come, and not even necessarily just in the language, but as a language learner, as a whole, about making your language learning as efficient as it can be for you. It's so easy to get caught up in what other people are doing, especially on YouTube. I get comments all the time about what I should be doing. But, you know, it's and part of the issues is I don't talk about everything in videos, like I'll forget or whatever, but, you know, only you can tell you what's right for your life. You know, I think sometimes people, when they watch my videos, forget, even though I talk about it all the time, but it's hard to imagine. Like, I wake up every morning, get my son ready, I go to work, I come home, I still have to cook dinner, I still have to do, you know, or my wife will cook dinner and I'm watching the kid or whatever it is. Like, I think it's hard for people to put that into perspective because you just see what is on YouTube and, you know, just making language work for you. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've done this year is find a system that actually works, and I've made that system work for me. And man, I don't know. I don't like, I'm not wanting it to sound like I'm patting myself on the back or anything, because I'm definitely not. But, you know, just sometimes self-reflection about how far you've come as a language learner is really, really cool. Like, I'm really happy with where I'm at, you know, even going through the little bit of a burnout phase. And we're back stronger than ever. And that feels really, really cool. So anyway, I am going to end this video here. I just wanted to briefly chat for a minute. Let me know down below what you think, positive or negative. As you know, I will gladly read it and see what's up. And let me know, you know, if you have anything about, you know, your own self journey. You know, think about it. You know, where have you come this year as a language learner with improving methods or becoming just more efficient in what you do? So I'm going to leave you all with that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. I really hope I didn't leave anything out in this video that makes me sound like an idiot, or for more people will question me in the comments. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.